I was standing in front of the mirror in my tux, hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from that nervous, electric anticipation that hums through your veins when life's about to change forever. In 10 minutes, I was supposed to walk out there, see her, and finally say, I do. Months of planning, months of emotional investment, thousands of dollars in deposits that could fund a small car, all leading to this one moment. And then my phone buzzed. Just one little vibration. One small, casual sound that ended my entire world. Claire, Ethan, I'm so sorry. I can't do this. I reject you. That's it. No punctuation beyond the full stop after you. Cold. Final. Like something out of medieval drama. I reject you. For a few seconds, I thought it was a joke. Maybe a last-minute prank to break the tension. But as I stared at the screen, the room seemed to tilt. My chest tightened. The air felt too thin to breathe. Ethan? Jake's voice came from behind me. Hey man, it's time. Everyone's waiting. I turned the phone toward him. He read it, blinked. No freaking way. Something inside me just clicked. The panic, the heartbreak. They were there, but buried under this icy, calm detachment that didn't feel human. I think some part of me went into damage control mode. I walked out of the groom's suite and found the officiant, an older man with kind eyes who looked confused about the delay. Small change of plans, I said, my voice unnaturally steady. Then I stepped into the hall alone. The soft chatter of guests fell to murmurs. Cameras ready, faces smiling, then confusion as they noticed there was no bride. I picked up the mic meant for our vows and said, Welcome, everyone. Silence. There's been a development. About 5 minutes ago, I received a text message from Claire. I held up my phone like evidence in the courtroom. It said, and I quote, Ethan, I'm so sorry. I can't do this. I reject you. A ripple went through the crowd. Gasps. Someone on her side actually cried out. My mother's face turned ghost white. So I continued. It appears there will be no wedding today. Claire has made her choice. I paused, letting it sink in. However, everything's already paid for. The bar is open. The food is ready and the band is here. So tonight isn't a wedding reception. It's a celebration of honesty, even when it's brutal, a celebration of dodging a bullet. I raised my glass of water, didn't trust myself with champagne, to dodging bullets. 5 seconds of stunned silence. Then Jake started clapping. My dad joined in. Soon most of my side followed. Some of Claire's relatives looked horrified. Her parents stormed out, but the rest stayed. That's how my wedding became the strangest party I've ever been to. 6 hours later, I was sitting upstairs in my tux while the sound of music and muffled laughter floated up from below. People were drinking heavily, half in sympathy, half in disbelief. My dad had hugged me so tight my ribs hurt. He whispered, her lost son. Huge loss. I kept replaying the moment in my head. That text, I reject you. The phrasing was almost theatrical, as if she wanted to leave a mark. Mission accomplished. Downstairs, people were doing their best to turn shock into something resembling fun. Jake had commandeered the bar, handing out shots and trying to keep spirits up. Every time someone looked my way with pity, I forced a smile, but inside I was unraveling. Do you know what heartbreak feels like when it's public? When everyone you love witnesses in real time. It's not just pain, it's humiliation baked into your bloodstream. And yet, in a twisted way, I felt relief, because now I knew. No more doubts, no more pretending. She'd shown me exactly who she was, and she'd done it before I made a mistake I couldn't undo. That night ended with me sitting on my balcony at 3 a.m., staring at the city lights while my phone stayed stubbornly silent. She hadn't called. She hadn't explained. She hadn't even read my last message. Got your text. I understand. Take care. I didn't understand. Of course. Not even close. But that was the only thing I could manage to say that didn't sound like begging. Somewhere between the exhaustion and the whiskey, I started laughing. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. Months of planning, thousands spent, family flown in from everywhere, all of it undone by a single message. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My mother was fielding calls from relatives demanding explanations. Vendors wanted to know if they'd still get paid. And I just sat there, staring at the tux hanging on the chair, trying to figure out how to return something that symbolized failure. By afternoon, the story had spread through our small town. Everyone knew. Claire bailed on the wedding at the last minute. I was suddenly that guy, the one whose bride ran away. But something strange happened. People started showing up, friends, co-workers, even distant cousins, bringing food, beer, and stories about their own heartbreaks. It turned into this impromptu support circle. And in the middle of all that noise, I realized something profound. I wasn't broken. I was angry, humiliated, yes, but not destroyed. The next few days were a blur of logistics. Calling vendors, canceling reservations, dealing with the financial fallout. My parents had sunk a small fortune into this wedding. The venue, the catering, the flowers, it all added up to around $60,000. Gone. But the hardest part wasn't the money. It was the silence. No call. No explanation. Nothing. By day 3, I started to wonder if maybe something terrible had happened to her. Maybe she'd had a breakdown, an accident, something that would make this insanity make sense. Then the truth hit. Literally, through a friend's DM. A mutual acquaintance texted me. Bro, you didn't hear this from me, but Claire ran off with some guy named Jordan. He picked her up right before the ceremony. Sorry, man. I read it 3 times, waiting for my brain to reject it. But deep down, it made horrible, perfect sense. The secrecy, the sudden coldness in her last few weeks, the mysterious work trips, the late-night messages she didn't want me to see. I'd ignored all of it, because love makes you stupid. Jordan, older, flashy, smooth talker, the kind of guy who makes promises he can't keep. He'd apparently told her he could give her the life I couldn't. Luxury, adventure, freedom. Freedom from me. Except her freedom was built on lies. 72 hours later, my phone exploded with notifications. Claire, Ethan, please. I made a terrible mistake. We need to talk. Claire, it wasn't what it looked like. Claire, please, Ethan, I love you. There it was, the frantic backpedaling. I didn't reply right away. I let her messages pile up. Dozens of them, each one a variation of please, sorry, forgive me. By the time I finally answered, it wasn't for closure. It was for curiosity. When I picked up, her voice cracked instantly. Ethan, oh my God. Thank you. Please, just listen. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Like what, Claire? My voice was calm, detached. You mean ditching me minutes before our wedding? She sobbed. I panicked. I thought I was doing the right thing. Jordan told me he promised. Promise what? That you could start over with him? That he'd take care of you? Her silence was answer enough. Then she whispered, he's gone. He left me. I'm stranded. I don't know what to do. A bitter laugh escaped me. That sounds like a you problem, Claire. Not mine. Claire, Ethan, please. I made a terrible mistake. We need to talk. Claire, it wasn't what it looked like. Claire, please, Ethan, I love you. There it was, the frantic backpedaling. I didn't reply right away. I let her messages pile up. Dozens of them, each one a variation of please, sorry, forgive me. By the time I finally answered, it wasn't for closure. It was for curiosity. When I picked up, her voice cracked instantly. Ethan, oh my God. Thank you. Please, just listen. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Like what, Claire? My voice was calm, detached. You mean ditching me minutes before our wedding? She sobbed. I panicked. I thought I was doing the right thing. Jordan told me he promised. Promise what? That you could start over with him? That he'd take care of you? Her silence was answer enough. Then she whispered, he's gone. He left me. I'm stranded. I don't know what to do. A bitter laugh escaped me. That sounds like a you problem, Claire. Not mine. Ethan, please. We can fix this. Tell people I had a panic attack. We can reschedule. I almost admired her audacity. The sheer entitlement of thinking she could burn my world down and then just step back into it like nothing happened. You texted me 5 minutes before our vows. I said flatly. You said, I reject you. There's no coming back from that. She cried harder. You don't mean that. I do. Goodbye, Claire. Then I hung up and blocked her. That night, Jake came over with beer and pizza. You did the right thing, man, he said. You don't come back from betrayal like that. I nodded. She thought she could trade up. Turns out she traded down to 0. Jake raised his bottle. To dodge bullets. To dodge bullets. I echoed. And for the first time since that text, I smiled. Because deep down, I knew the real revenge hadn't even started yet. The morning after that final phone call, I woke up feeling lighter. Not happy, not even close. But lighter. Like I'd finally dropped a weight I'd been pretending wasn't crushing me. Claire was gone. The wedding was over. The humiliation was public, sure, but it was also done. Or so I thought. Because when someone like her burns down a life, they never stop at the ashes. They try to come back and rebuild it. On your dime, your guilt and your forgiveness. And that's exactly what happened. For 3 whole days, I heard nothing. Then, like a dam burst, it started. Block number calls, new email addresses, even a letter at my door. Every message said the same thing in slightly different words. I made a mistake. I was confused. I didn't know what I was doing. But behind all that regret, I could still smell the arrogance, the assumption that I'd take her back because deep down, she still thought she was a prize. The truth came out fast. Apparently, Claire's new beginning with Jordan had lasted all of 2 days. He'd sold her a dream, told her they'd run away together, live free of responsibility, maybe even start a business with her money. Except she didn't have any. I did. When she told him she didn't have access to my accounts or any of the wedding funds, Jordan's mask dropped instantly. He dumped her at a gas station somewhere in Ohio, took her phone charger, and drove off. That's what her escape plan came down to, a con man and a car ride. So now, she was stranded, humiliated, and crawling back to me, hoping I'd play the savior again. But this time, I was done playing. Jake came over that night with a bottle of scotch. We sat on my couch, the TV muted, watching the city lights. He asked, You think she'll actually stop trying to contact you? I shook my head. No chance. She's not sorry she hurt me. She's sorry it didn't work out. Jake chuckled darkly. You're too calm, man. If someone did that to me, I'd lose it. Oh, I lost it, I said, just quietly. Because that's the thing about heartbreak. At first, you want to scream. Then, eventually, the anger stops being noise and turns into precision. Cold, sharp, surgical. The messages escalated over the next few days. From begging to guilt-tripping to outright manipulation. You're being cruel, Ethan. Everyone makes mistakes. I was scared. You pressured me. If you ever love me, please talk to me. We can fix this. We can still have our happy ending. Each one felt like a mosquito bite. Irritating, pointless, and impossible to ignore. Then her sister, Danielle, called me out of nowhere. Ethan, how dare you humiliate her like that? She snapped before I could even say hello. Humiliate her? I said, genuinely stunned. She humiliated herself. You didn't have to announce it in front of everyone. You turned her text into some sick joke party. She was under stress. She panicked. I sighed. Danielle, she texted me 5 minutes before the ceremony. She planned to run away. Don't act like this was a random panic attack. You should have protected her. Danielle spat. You were supposed to love her. I did, I said softly. She didn't love me back. That's the difference. Where is she supposed to go now? That's not my problem anymore. And I hung up. I shipped the rest of Claire's stuff back to her parents' house the next day. Didn't want another confrontation. Didn't want her near my door. The box of her things sat in my hallway all morning. Every item was a ghost, a memory attached to a lie. The book she pretended to read. The perfume she wore on our first date. The framed photo of us at the lake house where she first told me she loved me. I almost laughed when I packed it, because I finally realized she never loved me. She loved the version of her life that existed when she was with me. Once that fantasy collapsed, so did her affection. The honeymoon trip had been prepaid. A luxury all-inclusive package to the Maldives. 18 grand. Non-refundable. For days, I stared at the travel agency emails, unable to decide what to do. Cancel it? Eat the cost? Go alone? Finally, I called Jake. What are you doing next week? I asked. Nothing. Why? You ever been to the Maldives? He paused. Wait, seriously? Seriously. It's already paid for. Let's go. Are you insane? Probably. But if I don't use it, it's just another thing she ruins. I'm not giving her that. Jake laughed. You're out of your mind, man. I'm in. We went. And honestly, it was the best decision I've ever made. Two guys in paradise, living the trip that was supposed to be a honeymoon. It sounds sad on paper, but it wasn't. It was freeing. It was hilarious, even. We drank cocktails in that stupid overwater bungalow she'd picked out after spending hours obsessing over the vibe. We went diving, swam with manta rays, and ate meals so expensive they felt illegal. On the last night, Jake raised a glass and said, "Here's to Claire, the best travel agent we never paid." I laughed until I cried. The next morning, I posted a single photo on Instagram. Me and Jake, sunglasses on, drinks in hand, the turquoise ocean glowing behind us. Caption: making the best of an unexpected situation. Paradise found. No tags. No mentions. But I knew word would get around. And it did. A few days later, a mutual friend messaged me. Dude, Danielle saw the photo. Apparently Claire lost it. Said you stole her honeymoon. I just replied, tell her she forfeited it. When I got home, the messages had stopped. For a while, it felt like peace. Then came the rumors. According to the whispers spreading through town, I was the villain now. Claire hadn't left me for another guy. No, that was a misunderstanding. She'd been pressured, manipulated, emotionally abused by me. The text was taken out of context, apparently. Some people actually believed it. People who'd smiled at me during the wedding reception. I didn't fight it publicly. I didn't need to. I had the receipts, the text, the timing, the facts. I showed them privately to a few key people. Word spread again, and the narrative started to crumble. But that's when her family crossed a line. They demanded compensation. You read that right, compensation. They wanted money for emotional labor, for the mental toll of wedding planning, and for the distress caused by public humiliation. They even wanted me to pay for therapy for Claire's trauma. I laughed when I read that one. Loud, real laughter. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. He replied with one email. Ethan considers the matter closed. Any further demands will be treated as harassment. And just like that, they vanished. A week later, I was cleaning up my apartment when I found one last trace of her, a handwritten note she left months ago, tucked into a book I'd given her. It said, "You're the safest place I've ever known." I tore it in half, because the truth was she didn't want safety. She wanted spectacle. She wanted a fantasy where she could be adored without earning it. And now she had neither. Months later, mutual friends told me Claire was living back with her parents. No job for a while. No Jordan. No me. Just quiet, bitter regret. They said she blames me for ruining her life. And maybe in a poetic way, I did. Not by revenge, not by cruelty, but by refusing to save her from the mess she made. Because when you stop rescuing the person who betrayed you, you become their mirror. And all they can see in it is themselves. By the time I finished unpacking from that trip, I realized something. I hadn't just dodged a bullet. I dodged a lifetime of walking on eggshells, of being drained, manipulated, and gaslit. She didn't destroy my life. She freed me from the wrong one. And as far as revenge goes, nothing cuts deeper than living better without them. Peace doesn't last long when your ex is a professional victim. For a few months, life was quiet. I was working again, sleeping better, even smiling at stupid things. Coffee in the morning, a walk at sunset, the sound of rain on my windows. But when people like Claire lose control of the story, they don't move on. They rewrite it. It started small. A friend of a friend messaged me. Hey, man, random question. Did you really lock Claire out of your apartment after she had a breakdown? What? That was news to me. Then another message. Bro, why are people saying you financially trapped her? What's going on? And that's when I knew she was rewriting history. The rumor mill kicked into overdrive. Suddenly, I wasn't the guy who got ditched 5 minutes before his wedding. I was a controlling fiancé who emotionally abused a fragile woman into running away. People whispered that I had forced her to stay in a relationship she didn't want, that I'd monitored her spending, that I'd isolated her from friends. All complete fabrications, but believable enough to sting. And the worst part? Some people actually wanted to believe it, because it's easier to pity the crying woman than to imagine she might be a manipulator. One night, I was at a bar with Jake when a mutual acquaintance, let's call her Mia, walked up. She didn't even say hi. She just crossed her arms and said, "You really broke her, didn't you?" I froze. Excuse me? Claire, she told me everything. How you gaslit her. How you cut her off financially. She said she had to run away for her safety. Jake nearly choked on his drink. Safety? From him? He's the safest guy on earth. But she wasn't listening. She'd already decided. I could have defended myself, shown her the texts, told her how I was the one left humiliated. But what was the point? People don't want truth. They want drama. So I just said, believe what you want, and walked away. That's when Jake muttered, "Man, this is turning into a PR war." And he was right. A week later, I got an email from HR. Subject, complaint filed against employee. I opened it, my stomach dropped. It was an anonymous complaint claiming I'd displayed misogynistic behavior and shown aggression toward women. No names, no dates, no examples, just poison. Luckily, my manager knew me well enough to see through it. But still, the fact that someone had tried to tank my job like that, yeah, that was a new level. I knew who it was. Claire had always been dramatic, but this wasn't drama. This was a sabotage. So I did what I should have done months earlier. I stopped playing defense. I gathered everything. The texts, the timelines, the receipts. The messages where she confessed she'd left me for another man. The screenshots showing she'd been cheating emotionally long before the wedding. The bank records proving she wasn't financially trapped. She spent thousands of my dollars on self-care retreats and spiritual guidance that were basically fancy excuses to meet her soulmate. I compiled it all into a neat, time-stamped file, a quiet weapon, and I waited. Then one day it happened. She crossed the final line. Claire posted a long, dramatic healing story on Facebook, public of course, complete with poetic captions and vague accusations about her narcissistic ex who destroyed her self-worth. People flooded the comments with hearts and sympathy. You're so brave. You deserve peace. Men like that always get exposed. And I just sat there, staring at my screen, jaw tight. Jake saw it too. He sent me a text. You want nuclear narrative? Because you can. I hesitated for a long time because part of me still wanted to take the high road. But the other part, the part that had been humiliated, lied about, and attacked for months, was done being silent. So I made a post. One single post. No rage, no insults, just truth. Since people are asking, here's what really happened before my wedding. Then I attached screenshots. Her text canceling the wedding 5 minutes before the ceremony. The timestamp. The message logs between her and Jordan. The emails she'd sent begging to come back. The threats her family made demanding money. No names. No slurs. No hatred. Just facts. It spread like wildfire. Within an hour, people who called me toxic were deleting their comments. Mutuals were apologizing. And Claire? She went silent. Completely. The post didn't stay up long. I took it down after a day. I didn't need it to live forever. I just needed the truth to breathe for a while. And that was enough. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was her father. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just sighed and said, "Ethan, we didn't know the whole story." I said nothing. He continued, "She told us a lot of things that weren't true. I'm sorry you got dragged into it. I just hope you can move on. Move on. 2 words I've been craving for months. Thanks, I said simply and hung up, but Claire wasn't done. She never apologized, not really. Instead, she tried to crawl back in through guilt. A text at 2 a.m. I wish things had been different. Then another, I can't sleep. I think about you every day. I stare at my phone, thinking about everything. The lies, the chaos, the public humiliation. Then I blocked her. No response. No closure. Just silence. Because silence is closure when you stop waiting for an apology. The next few months were peace. Real peace this time. I started running again. Took a solo trip to Iceland. Got promoted at work. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I was living. But here's the funny thing about healing. Once you're genuinely over it, you start to see everything differently. You stop asking, why did they do this to me? And you start thinking, thank God they did. Because their betrayal didn't destroy me. It redirected me. It forced me to grow up, to set boundaries, to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand me a Band-Aid. One night, I saw her by accident, at a restaurant downtown. She looked different, thinner, tired, lost. She was laughing too loudly, pretending too hard. Our eyes met for half a second, and in that second, I didn't feel anger, or nostalgia, or even hate, just distance. The kind of distance that doesn't need revenge, because you've already won. She looked away first. Later that night, Jake texted me a meme. It said, "Revenge is sweet, but peace tastes better." He was right. But still, part of me smiled knowing the universe had handled the revenge for me. Because the truth always does what you can't. Healing doesn't come with a big moment. No epiphany, no cinematic music, no perfect sunrise. It just sneaks in quietly. One morning, you wake up and realize the pain doesn't own you anymore. That's what happened to me. After the chaos died down, life became still. Too still at first. The kind of silence that forces you to sit with yourself. And that's not always comfortable. But it was necessary. For the first time in years, there were no texts to decode, no arguments to smooth over, no emotional puzzles to solve. It was just me. Raw, flawed, unfiltered me. And that's scarier than heartbreak sometimes. Because once you stop blaming the other person, you have to face the mirror. I started therapy. Yeah, I know, cliché, guy gets cheated on, goes to therapy, finds himself. But it worked. My therapist asked me something that stuck. Why did you think love meant saving someone? It hit like a punch. Because that's what I've been doing my whole life. Mistaking emotional rescue for emotional connection. With Claire, I wasn't loving her. I was fixing her. Trying to fill her emptiness with my effort. Try to earn peace through sacrifice. And that's the fastest way to lose yourself. So I made a rule for my new life. No more saving anyone who wouldn't swim on their own. I started saying no more. Started choosing peace over people-pleasing. Stopped apologizing for setting boundaries. It felt weird at first. Selfish, even. But then I realized that selfishness is sometimes just self-respect mispronounced. I threw myself into new habits. Woke up early. Hit the gym. Learned how to cook something other than takeout. Started a YouTube channel documenting solo travel. No sponsors, no scripts, just real moments. The first few videos flopped. Then one, titled, "How It Feels to Start Over After Losing Everything," blew up. Hundreds of comments. People saying it made them feel less alone. People who've been left, cheated on, ghosted. All saying the same thing. This helped me heal. And for the first time, I felt something better than revenge. Purpose. A few months later, I got an email from a company that wanted to sponsor my channel. Then another. Suddenly, the thing I'd started as therapy was turning into something real. I wasn't the guy who got left at the altar anymore. I was Ethan, creator, traveler, storyteller. It's crazy how fast life changes when you stop chasing ghosts and start chasing growth. Then, one evening, I got another email. Subject line, "Hey," no name, no details. Just that. It was her. I almost deleted it without opening it. But curiosity won. She wrote, "I saw one of your videos. You look happy. I'm glad. I just want to say I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve any of it. I hope someday you can forgive me. I stared at it for a long time. The old me would have overanalyzed every word, searching for hidden motives. The new me just smiled. I didn't reply, not out of anger, but because forgiveness doesn't always need an audience. I already forgave her. Quietly. For me, not for her. Because holding on to hate is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Time passed. 1 year since the wedding that wasn't. I celebrated by hiking solo through the Dolomites in Italy, a trip I'd always dreamed of but never made time for. Standing at the summit, the wind cold against my face, I realized something simple but profound. She hadn't broken me. She revealed me. All the versions of me that were buried under approval, fear, and codependency, they were gone. What was left was real. When I got back, Jake met me at the airport. "Damn," he said, clapping me on the back. "You actually did it." "Did what?" "Turned your life into a plot twist." We both laughed. Because, yeah, that's exactly what it was. The ultimate revenge. Not burning bridges, not proving her wrong, but building a life so good she'd never be part of it again. A few months later, I heard through the grapevine that Claire had moved to another city. She was in a new relationship already. Good for her, I thought. But deep down, I knew she hadn't changed, because people like her rarely do. They just find new stages, new audiences. And I didn't care anymore, because her chapter in my story was over, and mine was finally beginning. One night, someone commented on one of my videos. "You're the guy whose fiancé left him, right? What happened to her?" I replied, "She became a lesson. I became the person who learned it." The comment blew up. Thousands of likes. But for me, it wasn't about the attention. It was about closure. The story that once defined me was now just a line in a much bigger book. I've learned that revenge isn't about watching them fall. It's about rising so high that their betrayal looks small in comparison. Because pain is temporary. Growth is permanent. And the moment you stop letting what hurt you define you, you win. Sometimes I think about that day. The text, the panic, the silence in that church hall, the looks on everyone's faces, the chaos that followed. If I could go back and change it, I wouldn't, because that moment, the worst day of my life, turned out to be the start of the best version of me. Now, when I tell my story on stage or online, or the people who message me saying, "I don't know how to move on," I always tell them this. You don't get over it. You outgrow it. You outgrow the need for their validation. You outgrow the pain. And one day, you wake up and realize you're not angry anymore. You're grateful. Grateful it ended. Grateful it taught you. Grateful you survived. Because surviving betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's the prologue to the version of you that doesn't beg to be loved. Because now, you know your worth. So yeah, that's the real ending. Not the wedding that never happened. Not the heartbreak. Not the rumors. Not even the revenge. The ending is this. A man who once begged for love now walks alone. Not lonely, but whole. Not bitter, but better. And if that's not revenge, I don't know what is. And with that, our story comes to an end. But the real story begins with your thoughts. What would you do if you were in this situation? Let me know in the comments.